Hello, I'm going to show you how to use Google Sheets to make tables and graphs. So the first thing you want to do is log on to your Google Drive and locate Google Sheets from your Google Apps and choose a blank sheet. So we're going to imagine that we've just done an experiment where we've kept track of the height of a plant over a period of 10 days. We need to identify our variables in this case. Remember that in your first column, in column A, we want to have our manipulated variable there. That's the one that you chose, whereas the responding variable you'll put in column B, that is the variable that you measured. So in this example, we decided to measure the height of plants over 10 days. So I'm going to give my first column a title, and I'm just going to put it this way, the number of days. And in my second column, I'm going to put the height of my plant. I'm going to say in centimeters. Now, notice that I've left a blank space here. I'm going to come back at the end and I'm going to put a title up here. So I'm just going to leave that first cell blank. So we've decided to measure the height of the plant for a number of 10 days. So I'm just going to fill that in, and it's pretty easy to also just drag the numbers down this way, and then it will just fill it in for you. So the height of my plant, let's say on day 1 was at 0 centimeters, and I'm just making up these values. It's growing pretty fast. And here we go. Also notice how the numbers are appearing on the right side of the cell. If I were to include units, for example, notice how they stay on the left. You do not want to have the units in your table. They are already up here in your column title, so it's redundant to write centimeters again, and it won't work when you're trying to make a graph anyway. So you need to make sure that they do appear on the right side of the cell when you're done with it. Okay, so the table is almost done. I'm just going to add some grid lines. You can find this right here. You can choose which of the borders you would like to include. In this case, I want to include them all. So I'm going to select this box here, and I'm going to go in and add my title. Now I want my title to appear over the entire top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both cells and I'm going to merge them. That basically means I'm just going to make one cell into them. And I can do that here by selecting this little icon, merge cells, and there you go. Now we only have one cell. I'm going to give it a title, so height of a plant over a period of 10 days. And if I want to be able to actually see all of that, I can just drag this here, and now I can see my title. Okay, so the next part, we're going to make a graph out of this. You should have a pretty good idea already what kind of graph you're looking for, line graph or possibly bar graph. In this case, this is time and it is running, and it is fair to assume that there is a value between 0 and 0.5. At some point between day 1 and day 2, my plant was between 0 and 0.5. And so I'm going to do a line graph. You do not need to select any of your titles, just select your values. And then you want to come over here and click the Insert Chart icon. Now here it gives you some recommendations, but I recommend you go to Chart Type. And in this case, I'm going to choose a line graph. Now it's going to give you a suggestion as to what it might look like, and you need to have a good idea in your mind of what it should look like. Right now I have two lines. Two lines represent that I have two different responding variables. This is definitely not the case. I only have one. So I need to start using these boxes here and click on them until I find a graph that actually represents what it is that I'm looking for. So in this case, I'm just going to look at this and see if this makes sense. So I've got down here up to 10, so this is my number of days here that are on the bottom, and that makes sense. This is my manipulated variable. And then the height of my plant is on the y-axis, and that makes sense. I always want to have the responding variable on the y-axis. So this is the one that I want. Then I need to add some titles. So I'm going to go to the customization, and I can directly add my titles right here. So height of a plant over a period of 10 days. I need to add my horizontal axis title, so that's on the bottom. So here I have number of days, or maybe I'll put time in days. I also want to include a left vertical title. This is the height in centimeters. Don't forget to put the units of measure. That is very important. And that looks pretty good. So there we go. I have created my graph. It's not necessary in this case that I indicate what the line here is. So in fact, I can remove it altogether because I only have just one line. So here we go, height of the plant over a period of 10 days. So once you're done your graph, it's a good idea to look at it and see if everything you wanted is there and does it make sense. And I'm looking at it right now, and I'm not really liking how the spacing here isn't quite equal, and that actually my axis here is a 1. I prefer having a 0, 0 starting point. So if at any point, you made a typo and you wanted to change something, you can just right-click directly on your graph once you've selected it, and you want to go back to your options. So that's the advanced edit down here. And what I'm going to do to make sure that I have a 0, 0 here is right here, enter a 0. And just notice how then everything starts at 0, 0, and therefore my first value is here at my day 1. And this makes a little bit more sense to me, and now I also have equal spacing between all my lines. Something else that I'd like to add now are my points. So I want to make sure that I can see everywhere that I actually did measure the height. And so I can decide what size of points that I want. I don't need them to be too big. I can even change the color of them, of the line, if I wanted. I can change the shape of the points. There you go. You can see them a little bit better right now. They're squares. And when I'm satisfied with how it looks, I can just put update. And there you go. That's how you can edit your graph.